Kat and Jess Talk the Best, where we're going to be talking about IMDb's top 250 movies from April 12th, 2018. My name is Kat.
And I'm Jess.
And today we are talking about our holiday event. The very first movie is Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which is an animation adventure comedy film from 1970. This has a 7.7 on 10,807 votes. The spoiler-free synopsis. A mailman reveals the origin of Santa Claus. About as short as the movie.
Short and sweet and to the point.
Yep.
Literally.
Yep.
Alright, so this is directed by Jules Bass and Arthur Rankin Jr., who also have directed The Year Without Santa Claus, Jack Frost, and Frosty the Snowman.
Which is in the Christmas movie collection thing that I have. Of the DVDs of all those movies. And it came in like this collection.
They did a lot of those like animated movies about like the Christmas time stuff, so.
Yeah. It's got some other shorter ones in it, like the 30-minute ones.
I was like, yeah, I had to mention The Year Without Santa Claus because of, I actually really like that movie, so. That may be next year. We'll see.
It's been a while since I've seen that one.
I just love the songs in it.
I don't remember them. Especially not right now.
So this stars Fred Astaire, Mickey Rooney, and Keenan Wynn.
Which I recognize a lot of those names.
As I would say you might recognize Keenan Wynn. His son is Edwin, who you might know as the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland.
The animated one?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, because the Mad Hatter in the live action one is Johnny Depp, so.
I was like, no, in the animated one, yeah. Oh, sorry, correction, my bad, I've mixed it up. So Ed is technically, I mixed it up. The Keenan is Ed's son. That's what it is.
Oh,
threw it out. They're related, the father and son, but I had it mixed up.
That's fine.
Apologies.
And we will have Keenan again later in Doctor Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Something About the Bomb. We do have that movie later.
Yes, we do.
Anyways. So, their ratings. IMDb, 26.4% of users rated this at an 8. There is no score on Metacritic. Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 93% on 14 critical reviews. To Fresh, Charles Bramesco. The origin story for Santa Claus has all the elements that have made their productions perennial favorites every holiday season, including Fred Astaire and Mickey Rooney as the kindly narrator and a young Kris Kringle. He didn't really say anything worthwhile.
He's just saying that it's so good that you watch it every year. That's about it.
He's saying everything we just said.
I know.
Like, I didn't read it. That's my fault. So the AV Club staff, I don't know why, but the AV Club, filled with fun ideas and intricate wood figure animation, Santa Claus might be the Rankin Bass high water mark.
It's like their top movie. It's like something they can it's something that everyone knows and would recognize. I mean, you say Santa Claus is coming to town, you think of 1, the song, and 2, this movie. So yeah. That's what they're trying to say.
Okay. So, The Rotten, there was only one. Kelly West. I know it's a classic, but the too bright colors and weird animation style just doesn't work for me. I feel like she just doesn't like stop motion.
I'm like, well, it's stop motion, and then in some parts they add some regular animation. So I'm like, probably what you said, though, not a big fan of stop motion. Even though I am a huge fan of stop motion. As you can tell by my 2 movies I picked.
I mean, I can understand it's not for everyone.
And it's like, I just know how much work's put into it. That's why I can appreciate it so much.
Yeah. So, the consensus. Arriving with lighthearted cheeriness and the best musical numbers, Santa Claus Has Come Into Town is a magical story told by charming wood figure animation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there is no money information on this one because it was a TV movie. So, it didn't have a theatrical release. Like, ever. So, just, like, straight to TV and DVDs and VHS and stuff.
I mean, it's only 50 minutes long, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, no awards to talk about either. Like, nothing at all. So, initial thoughts.
So this is my movie. I'll go first. I honestly don't remember the first time I watched this. I think I've watched it like every single year since I can remember. Around this time of year. I will admit this always gets me in the mood for the season. Like, because I will admit I'm not a big Christmas fan, like, at all. It does help get me in the mood, though. It does, like, one of the things I really liked with this movie is you learn. I mean, it says it in, like, the thing, so I'm just gonna say it now. I'm like, what made me connect to so much this movie, besides, like, the songs and, like, the animation, is you learn Mrs. Claus's name.
Oh, yeah.
She's got a name. And I was like, oh, I know that name. I was like, because it's my name.
Yeah.
So it made me super happy to, like, see, like, a character on TV with my name and everything. And she's pretty, and she sings really well. And she helps Santa Claus out, because, you know, that's what she does. So that just made me feel, like, better about everything, you know, because I'll admit, my name is not always around a lot in movies. So it's nice to see it on screen. I'll say that. Yeah, I've just always loved this movie. So I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to do this movie for a holiday event. I'm like, let's do it. It's short. We could talk about it, have a lot of fun with it. So, yeah.
I don't remember the first time I watched this movie. I know I watch it every year in December. It's usually one of the first ones I watch for Christmas. It's either this or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, because I love Rudolph. But I prefer animals to people, so that's probably why I watch Rudolph. But I like this movie a lot. It's a Christmas classic. Alright, that was your warning. If you haven't watched the film yet, then stop listening and come back after you've watched it. So we start off with the mailman, like news and the mailman.
It's like kids are preparing everywhere for the arrival of Santa Claus, sending letters and all that. And that's where you get, of course, your mailman.
Yeah.
This is Fred Astaire's character.
Yeah.
And it actually looks like him, too. Which I think is cool.
I would have to look at a picture. I'm too tired.
It looks pretty close to him. It does. So he's stopped, you know, he's taking letters to Santa Claus and everything. And he's like, all these letters, they ask different things. Like, some ask for, like, certain gifts. And some of them ask questions about Santa. You know, like, why they call you Kris Kringle sometimes? Or where'd you get your name? Or how do reindeer fly? Or something like that. Like, all these questions that, you know, kids would have. And so he's like, well, I'm going to tell you the, you know, like, the story of, like, how Santa got, like, all of his stuff and everything. And he starts singing just a little bit of it. Santa Claus is coming to town. Just a little bit of it. And then he says, like, after the credits and everything, he says, okay, so we're going to start when he's little, when he's a baby.
Yeah.
And Santa, or in this one, he's called Kris Kringle, he is left on the doorstep of the mayor, Burgermeister.
Yep, Grumpy Mayor. That's
Yeah.
what I always called him.
He always cracks me up. I think he's just a funny character.
He is such a funny character, but I have always called him Grumpy Mayor.
Grumpy Mayor, that
Grumpy
Burgermeister.
Mayor. Yeah.
It's like, yeah. And it's found on his doorstep, and it's saying, with a little letter, saying that, take care of him and everything. And there's a little, with a necklace with a tag on it that says, Claus is his name.
Yeah.
And, the Burgermeister, of course, you're saying, grumpy. He's like, I'm not going to be raising some kid left on my doorstep. He's like, just take him to, the orphanage,
Yeah.
And so he has someone take him to the orphanage on the sled, but then the sled breaks away.
So the baby blows away.
Yeah, so the baby blows away.
And the animals take him to the Kringles, which are elves.
Yes, they do. They do. I love how they hit the baby first from Winter Warlock.
Yeah.
They put, a bunch of sticks on top of them. I'm like, well, I mean, I would probably do the same thing to hide, a random kid just, on the ground from, a warlock. Yeah, they take him to the Kringles, and Dingle Kringle is the one who answers the door and picks up the baby.
Yeah.
And shows it to everybody. And they take the baby in.
Yeah.
And they call it, because they're Kringles, and so they decide to name the baby Kris Kringle.
Yep.
And they teach him how to, he's growing up, so they teach him how to read and write, and they're toy makers. And so they teach him how to make toys. Yeah. But since they're, on this other side of the mountain, they can't really get down to the town, so the toys just pile up outside.
Yeah.
And, so, what was it, I always forget her name, so there's, a T or something. I just call her the Queen. The head of the Kringles. And she's telling how the Kringles were famous toy makers for the king, for king and royalty. And, it's a whole song about it, too. How they have to be perfect and everything. And you got, them marching around, the little workshop, singing this song.
Yeah.
Which is adorable. And you learn that the animals are the one who taught Kris how to do his laugh. His ho, ho, ho.
The seals.
Yeah, the seals. And it's grown up now. He's a man. And he's saying that, you know what, I can take them down now. Take the toys down to, the other side of the mountain to give to the, the kids down there.
Yeah.
And so the Queen's like, well, you're gonna need something warm. So she has a red suit made for him
just
and everything.
Like all of the other Kringles.
Just like all the other Kringles, who are also in the red suit with the white fur on it. So, typical, Santa Claus. It's where he got it from.
Yeah. Which was one of the questions that the kids were asking.
Where to get his suit. So that's where he got it from. And so he's walking he has a bag full of toys and everything. He's walking down the mountain, and he meets his penguin.
Yeah, and so he just takes the penguin along with him.
And penguin's name's Topper, because Topper got lost. He was looking for the South Pole, but he was way far off.
He went the wrong way.
It's he's like, you're in the wrong direction. This is near the North Pole.
Yeah.
He's like, wrong direction. So he's like, you know what? You're my friend now. It's fine. We're good. And, so the town is called Somber Town that he's going to, and that's where the Burgermeister is. And the Burgermeister's walking through the town, and he trips on a toy. And he gets all, hurts himself and everything, so he gets mad, and so he bans all the toys.
Gets butthurt because he fell on a toy.
Yeah. He bans the toys, and anyone who has a toy will be thrown into jail.
Yep.
So toys are rounded up and everything.
Yep,
and, yeah.
He makes toys illegal, which is stupid.
I know. And then Chris shows up with a bag full of toys. He doesn't know, like, there's a new law that there's no more toys and everything. And he's telling the town people, like, hey, I'm here to give toys out. And they all book it. They run away from him because they don't want to get in trouble. He's like, what did I do?
Yeah. So he finds the kids, and they're like washing their stockings, and they say, we can't play with toys, we have to do our chores. I'm like, well, that's the rule, you have to do your chores first. And
they want to play with the toys, and he's like trying to give the toys out, and then you meet Miss Jessica, who is a school teacher. I'm like, oh my god. Like, as I watched this again, I was like,
future from this movie.
I'm like, this is me. And she's like trying to tell Chris, like, they can't have toys. It's against the law and everything. And he's like, well, that's silly. Why would they ban toys?
Yeah.
And he gives her a little doll. And then she chills out.
Yep. She's like, I always wanted one of these. I'm just like, well, he is Santa Claus, so of course he knew that.
It's like, yeah. And then there's this song right here that would not work today. It's the one where if you sit on Santa's lap, you give him a kiss, he's going to give you a toy.
Yeah.
Now, if you take that now, it doesn't sound very good. I was like, okay. I mean, it works. It's a cute little song. It works. And then you get to the Burgermeister. He's walking through the town. He's like, oh, the kids are playing with their toys. He's like, wait a minute. Didn't I ban toys?
Yeah.
And Chris is coming up. He's like, I'm the one who gave them the toys, and everything. And he's like, I saved you a yo-yo. Yeah. And he gives the Burgermeister a yo-yo, and the Burgermeister's like so happy. He's like, ooh, I love yo-yos, and like playing with it. And his guy standing next to me, he's like, you're breaking your own law right now.
Yeah. So then he tells the soldiers to arrest Chris, and Chris runs for it.
And then, he goes into the forest, and they don't even bother chasing after him. I'm like, you guys are terrible at this. Yeah. And then the Winter Warlock comes. Yeah. And he traps Chris and Topper in, these branches and everything. He's trying to be a big, old, scary warlock and everything. And Chris is like, but I want to give you something. I want to give you a toy. Yeah. And so Winter's like, okay. And so he releases them, and he gives Winter a train toy. A little toy train. And he gives it to him. And then all of a sudden, he melts a little bit. And he's like, you helped melt my icy heart. I've changed and everything. Of course, then you get, the song after this, which is, put one foot in front of the other. Uh-huh. Classic 70s song, actually. I'll say that.
I like this song.
I do, too. I was singing along with this song when I was watching it. I was like, put one foot in front of the other. Yeah. Yeah. And so Winter and Chris are good. They're friends now. And Winter offers to his magic. He's a warlock. He knows magic. Yeah. To help him, help Chris out and everything. And he's like, here, I'll help you. And he shows, gets a snowball. And it's like a crystal ball almost. And he's like, you can look and see what people are doing. Yeah. He's like, and you see that someone's looking for you. And it's Jessica, she's looking for him.
Yeah, because she wants to come tell him that the kids want more toys. And they want him to sneak them into town so that way they can play with him without the grumpy mayor knowing.
He's like, okay, I can sneak him in. But the kids have to keep their doors unlocked so I know I can get in. Yeah.
So he starts doing the toys and stuff. But, like, as he's delivering them, the mayor keeps finding out that he's bringing them, so he keeps trying to catch him in the act, and so the doors are supposed to be locked. Like, it's now a law that they have to be locked or something like that. And so the penguin topper is like, well, why don't you just go down the chimney?
So he dies.
Yep. The grumpy mayor keeps finding the toys and stuff, so he starts searching all the houses, and so they start putting the toys in the stockings that are hanging over the fireplace since he's coming down the chimney. And the mayor doesn't figure that out, so the kids have their toys.
He's more toys.
Yeah, because he sees them playing with them, and so he decides to set a trap, and Mrs. Claus, or Jessica, decides to go warn Chris, but Chris has already left. And so she's trying to get Winter Warlock to help, but he says he's run out of power.
He's become disenchanted.
Powers. Yeah. So Chris gets caught.
The Kringles get caught too.
Yeah.
For, helping Chris out. And so does Warlock.
Yeah. Everybody gets arrested.
Except Jessica.
Yeah. And Grumpy Mayor comes and collects the toys and burns them.
In front of the kids. I'm like, that's brutal.
Yeah.
So, Jessica tries to convince the Burgermeister to, release everybody. But he's like, I know. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. And so she sings, her little song. And this is totally, 60s, 70s vibe.
Yeah.
Completely. Because there's, the stop motion. And then in the background, there's, a different type of animation going on. Which I thought was really cool. Combining the two at the same time.
Yeah.
She has her song and everything about, she's like, I need to help Chris out more. Yeah. And everything, and her vision's changed and all that. I will say some of the green screen in this part was not great, but
yeah.
I mean, it's 1970, so I give it a little leeway, but not too much. Yeah. Plus, it's also a stop-motion film, so...
So, Jessica goes to the Winter Warlock and asks if he has any more magic. He's like, well, I have this magic corn.
It's like, to help reindeer fly. I'm like, how convenient is that?
I was like, how random is that?
It's so random that it works.
Yeah. But it's funny because the mailman, he goes, not Rudolph, not yet. That's a different story. And I'm just like, yes.
He's like, nah, Rudolph gets his own story. You gotta wait. Stay in your own story.
Yeah, but there's a wanted poster of Chris because she gets him out. They are able to get out of jail.
Because of the flying reindeer.
Yep. So Chris decides to grow a beard, and he changes his name, and the Queen of the Elves gives him his new name.
Claus.
Yep, which isn't really new. It's his old name before he was Kris Kringle.
Yeah. And so him and Jessica get married.
Yep. In the woods with the decorated trees, and that's where the decorations for Christmas come from.
Yeah, because Winter's like... He's like, I have a little bit of magic. Let's just make this, nice and pretty and everything. He lights up the tree. I'm like, aw, that's nice.
And then they move to the North Pole, all of them, all the Kringles and Mr. and Mrs. Claus. And they decide to build themselves a castle and a workshop so they can continue to take toys to all the children.
Yeah, and he's still got to work, travel at night.
Mm-hmm. Because he's still an outlaw.
Still an outlaw. But then... You learn after, years and years later, the Burgermeisters died out and everything. They all fell out of power. And so, the law is like, that's a stupid law.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it. And so, why he's called Santa is because he's, saint. He's so good, That's why he's called Santa.
Yeah. And, he was going 3 or 4 times a year delivering toys to the kids, but then it got so busy and he became so famous that he was starting to become world renowned. So he had to slowly start lowering the amount of times he would go out so that he could get all the toys out. And then it finally just became the one night, which is the night that they got married on.
Yeah, Christmas Eve. I was
my thought is, so you're just going to leave your wife on the one night that's your anniversary and let her sit at home while you go work? That's rude.
That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, what a great husband, just ditching your wife, on your anniversary and everything, because you're going to go deliver toys.
Yeah.
Because you work one night a year. It's on your anniversary too.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing, Kat. I did.
He still goes out and he has his magic for the snow. Makes it snow, makes it a white Christmas for everybody. And he says that there's still some people that don't like Christmas, but he wants them to be more like Santa.
It's like you should follow just like, in his footsteps, Yeah. And just follow his example. It's like, it's not about it's not all about the gifts and everything. It just follows example of being good to each other and all of that. And he's like, well, I better go finish delivering these letters to Santa. And then he starts singing Santa Claus Coming to Town.
Yeah. And then that's the end of the movie.
That is the end of the movie.
So the music for this, the composer and orchestrator was Maury Laws. She was the composer and orchestrator. She's known for The Hobbit, the animated one from 1977. She did some work she didn't really do any work since they used one of the songs from this movie in Batman and Robin in 1997. That's credited. The Daydreamer from 1966 and The Last Dinosaur from 1977. And then Jules Bass, who is also the director, one of the directors for this, she wrote the lyrics. She worked on a lot of stuff with Maury, The Hobbit, and The Daydreamer. She worked on those two. And then, of course, them using the Freezemeister, Snowmeister guy song in Batman and Robin. She also worked on Thundercats, the TV show. She came up with the lyrics for the main theme for that. But she's more of a director rather than a composer or anything. She just likes to write the lyrics for some of her stuff.
Makes sense.
Maury Laws did pass away this year in March. So anything we get from her from now on is, from March on is just them pulling from stuff she has previously done. But I do like the music a lot in this. They're all really good classic songs.
I love this music.
Very memorable. So, trivia?
There's not much trivia for this, I will say that. I mean, it's stop motion. It's pretty early stop motion, actually.
Yeah.
It's not full length, so technically, it's not a full length feature.
Well, it's just a TV movie, so.
Yeah. As I think full length features have to be over an hour.
An hour and 15 to be full length.
That makes sense. What was I say? Yeah, there's really not much for this. It's supposedly set in Germany, the story.
Okay. I can kind of see that.
Because, with the Burgermeister and everything, they all talk with, some German accents, and everyone else doesn't.
Well, and the structures in the little town kind of have that German feel to them.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in Germany. As a lot of Christmas traditions actually come from Germany, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too.
As the Christmas tree comes from there. All kinds of different things. So it makes sense for it to be in Germany. What else? A Burgermeister, I didn't know this, is a chairman of a council. So
okay.
A city council or something like that. And
okay.
he's the head person of it. I think that's a cool line. Cool little fact there. Yeah, there's really not much with this one. I really can't say. I mean, sometimes when they release This one, sometimes they cut songs. Like, sometimes they cut the Santa one with the, like, you know, if you sit on my lap. Or the Jessica song, sometimes they cut that one out, too. Or then sometimes they cut out the scene with, like, the Burgermeister burning the toys in front of the kids. Because it's too traumatic.
Yeah.
But that's just sometimes they do that. But I think all the times I've seen it, they've kept them in. So.
All right. So, favorite line.
Oh, let's see. How many do I have? 1.
I just have 2.
2.
Because I was not feeling well when I was watching it. So I was just like, that's good.
I have 3.
What about him? If he wants a toy, he may have one. That's Kris Kringle talking about Grumpy Mayor. And then my favorite one. Suddenly, my whole outlook has changed from bad to good. Great, but will it last? I thought that was funny.
That's like, I have one of my lines that's similar to that. Changing from bad to good is as easy as taking your first step.
Okay.
Does a smile on Christmas wipe out a tear? And this one, because it's just punny. You mustn't mind the tree monsters. Their bark is worse than their bite.
Yeah.
It was just so funny. And I love puns. So I was like, oh my god, this is great. I had totally forgotten about that line, too. I know this is my movie.
Yeah.
I gotta go with the pun. I do. I gotta go with the pun.
What is it again?
You mustn't mind the tree monsters. Their bark is worse than their bite.
Okay. So what is your rating?
I'm giving it an 8. It's an 8 for me. I will say part of the reason why it's not like a 9 or a 10. Some things don't age well, I will say. Some of the songs, I will say, have a very, very strong 70s vibe to them. And I don't know if everyone likes the 70s sound, for sure.
Yeah.
Again, some of the green screen effects weren't great, but again, it's just the time it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what takes it away from me. Is like sometimes it doesn't age as well, but for the most part, it does. And like as they said, like in the critic reviews, like it's a perennial classic. So, like I said before, I mean, it's got Jessica in it. That sounds kind of like narcissistic, but I mean, I was little when I first found that out. So, and it's always stuck with me. It always has. And I'm like, oh, and it's just like great songs. And it's stop motion. And I love stop motion animation. And it's early, but it's still great. It still works really well. So yeah, it's an 8.
Okay. For me, it is an 8 as well. Just a lot of the same reasons you said. It's a classic. I like most of the songs. Actually, I pretty much like all of them. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any that I don't like. But I do agree they have some 70s feel to them. It doesn't age well, like you said. Pretty much everything you said except for the Jessica thing, because that's not my name. So that's it for that one. Our next film is one of mine, which is Babes in Toyland from 1986. This event, we're just going to go in age order. So, oldest to newest. Bye.
Bye.